Empathy and sympathy are not the same things. So let's talk about it. So who am I and why does it matter? Like I said, fuck them glasses. So today's topic, grief and empathy. Grief and empathy. What are you talking about? I'm plenty empathetic. What's the difference between empathy and sympathy? I'm definitely sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that you're going through that. So then what's the damn difference between sympathy and empathy? Aren't they the same thing? I'm so glad you asked. One of those qualities is perspective taking. So if you don't know what perspective taking is and you think you're a really empathetic person, Houston, we might have a problem. Perspective taking literally means taking the perspective of another, right? Well, what does that mean? That means taking their thoughts as they are, as their own, which in our society seems to be a super wild concept that just because their perception of their reality doesn't match ours, that it's somehow not their truth. The second one, shocker, not having judgment. So hearing somebody's perspective and being able to listen to them objectively and hear their truth that doesn't match your own truth, doesn't match your story because it's not yours, which we all know we're all guilty of judgment. Again, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. The two last steps out of the four have to do with our communication, basic communication skills. What is that? I'm such a great communicator. I listen so well. My friends come to me for advice. Bullshit. The last two are being able to recognize the emotion that somebody's feeling. So what are they feeling? How they're feeling it. And not how you're interpreting it. How they're telling you they feel, and then you repeating it back to them how they understand their emotions, not how you understand their emotions. Which, if you think you're doing that, it's actually a lot harder than you think it actually might be. The bottom line is empathy is to feel with someone, taking it on together in that moment. Why? Because you have to. No, because you're making the conscious choice to, because you want to, because you in that moment are the person that they're turning to, and you are making that really tough choice to be empathetic versus sympathetic. It's a space where somebody is in their deepest, darkest moment of grief. They're in pain physically because nobody talks about the pangs of grief, and they're in that moment. And empathy is being in that moment with them. Somebody reaching out to you and saying, I'm hurting, I'm alone, I'm stuck, I don't know what I'm feeling. And you stopping what you're doing to climb down into that dark space with them. Uttering the words to them, I've been there, and I know what it's like to be in this space, and you're not alone. And for those who may not feel the grief that someone you love is going through and you don't know that pain, the first thing in our mind is to fix, even if we've never been there. And in the face of those difficult, really hard conversations when someone we love is going through something, we so desperately want to make it better. And most people in the midst of their grief of journey will agree with what I'm about to tell you. I would rather hear you say, in silence first, if you have to. There is beauty in silence. There's beauty in holding one another. There's beauty in standing together. And then saying, hey, I don't know what to say to you, but what I will tell you is that I'm so glad that you said something to me, that you were vulnerable enough to share that with me. And something that's really forgotten in our society when we're trying to make things better is that there is rarely a response, a good response, a correct response when somebody is going through something so profound that's gonna fix everything they're feeling. And so being honest and being open is a lot more valuable to somebody going through their grief and feels genuine versus sympathy. Now, let's talk about sympathy. It's so common in our world to hear people say, well, at least, right? And in the great words of Brene Brown, very rarely does empathy ever start with the word, well, at least. At least. Let me give you a couple examples. At least you got pregnant and you know you can have a baby someday and you can try again. Well, at least you were so far along that you got to have a baby and you now have a way to remember that baby. There are so many people that don't know what it's like to have a baby, and at least you got to feel that once in your life. Well, at least you can afford IVF, and you're so blessed to at least be able to do multiple rounds. So you should be able to do it again, right? At least it was just one miscarriage. At least, and here's the dreaded one for those who have children and have suffered a loss after having children. This one's just the gravy on top. Well, at least you have other living children and you're gonna be just fine. Now, this is not to bash anybody. If that's the kind of empathy you were taught, let's fix it now, because I'm very happy to help you figure out how to be there for somebody when the conversation is really difficult. The world needs a whole lot more empathy in it today, and it needs it now more than ever. And truth be told, your words are not what's gonna fix things. What's gonna fix things is connection. That's what's gonna fix things. Believe it or not, empathy is a really, really painfully vulnerable choice. It's a conscious choice that you have to make to be vulnerable with someone. And we'll talk about vulnerability in another video, because that's just too damn much to cover in one video. So what does that actually mean? That means that if I want to feel what you're feeling and I want to have a connection with you, that I have to go to a place of either knowing what you feel, for those of us who have lost, or those of us, or inversely, going to a place where I'm not sure what to say. I'm not sure how you feel, and I'm gonna put myself out on a limb here, and I may say the wrong thing and mess it up. Either way, it's scary. And that's a scary as shit place to be. To be in a place where you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, you can't totally relate with someone who you can see is physically hurting in pain, and you meet them there. It takes a lot of practice to be uncomfortable and not try to find what's called the silver lining or the positive or something to be thankful for in the face of something so profoundly terrible, and look like you're grateful to utilize that to get over your grief. And it takes a lot of practice to not perpetuate that and discount somebody's grief that is so real to them. In the world that we are living in today, we have enough people that say, damn, that's bad. Damn, that sucks. Damn, I can't believe that happened to you. I could never. Right? In a world where that is the response to grief, you have to make the choice to be better. Not because it's really about you, but because you are connected with the person that, or the individual that you are seeing going through this profound journey, and you care about them. You care about them enough to take your pride down, sit down on the floor with them, and just sit with them. One last thing. Some of the best conversations I've had during my journey has been just sitting and saying nothing. Just being allowed to sit there and ugly cry and sit with the people that love me, and them allow me to fall apart, and them not know what to say to me, but just sit with me in silence. Some of the best conversations, they don't even include words. And that's also something that's been lost in our society, is that we have to use words, we have to use visual aids, we have to speak or be spoken to. And in grief, it's one of the loneliest, quietest journeys that I wouldn't wish on anyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for taking some time to figure out and learn about what the difference between grief and sympathy is. And if there's anything in this video that spoke to you, or that there's somebody in your life or an example that you're seeing where it's very contradictory what I'm saying to you, and maybe you've never heard this before, equip yourself. There's plenty of articles. There's plenty of, I'm sure, shorts and other people that are talking about empathy and how important it is. I literally took a 10-week class on the art of compassion and empathy. It's real. We need it. And in grief, it's needed. So unspoken. It's needed. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. And we need to be acknowledged that what we've gone through, no matter what grief you're going through, it was real. It happened. You're not crazy. Death and dying is fucking hard. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 2 years, shit, I'm on my 8th year. It doesn't matter. It's not on a timeline. And that's what helps you work through your grief, is getting off of other people's timelines, educating those around you, setting your boundaries for your journey, and healing in the way that serves you as you remember your loved one. Thank you guys so much.